Kobold, why are we at the beach again? I have an idea, and maybe we can turn it into a spell video. I don't know if this will work, but I'm going to try to cast Contact Other Plane, where we first met Wizards of the Coast. What do you think will happen? Isn't this spell super dangerous? You might die. Nah, worst case is I turn insane for a day and get hurt a little bit. It's fine. This spell says we contact a demigod or some other mysterious entity from another plane, and we can ask it questions. And this place seems to be very special to wizards. So I'm curious if something big will happen this time. Hear me, Ultimate Rules Judge. I summon thee. Come forth. Kobold, what's happening? I don't know. This is not supposed to happen. Kobold, I'm super scared. I'm kind of getting worried too.
Welcome to Pack Tactics, where everyone has advantage.
No way! Kobold, you got Jeremy Crawford! Hello, Jeremy. I have some questions, but before we get into that, this video is sponsored by World Anvil, a powerful tool used to create massive worlds. This will help you organize your ideas and help you brainstorm for even more ideas. If you're a writer, world builder, or dungeon master, oh boy, this tool will change your world. Everything you need is here. You can have character sheets and NPC sheets. You can create interactive maps that can have lore attached to it. You can create a nice timeline for your world for your players to read. You can even collaborate with other dungeon masters to create worlds together. There's tons of things you can do with this, and I've only scratched the surface. If you need any help, the website is fantastic at guiding you around, and then there's the community that can help you optimize your craft even further. I know a few people who use World Anvil and they're hooked. One of them won an award from them recently, which is really cool. World Anvil does a lot of cool events with the community, which is really fun. So if you like community and world building, this is the perfect tool for you. I highly recommend checking out World Anvil, and if you like what you see, use the code PACK at the checkout and you'll get a 51% off any yearly subscription. Back to Jeremy. Before I start the video, I need to give some context. I somehow accidentally cast a spell called Zoom Call, and that's how we ended up having this conversation. We only had 15 minutes together, and we only talked about the new book and its rules. Jeremy thinks I'm human for some reason, so I just played along with it to not scare him. People don't like monster species like me, so, you know, I get it. Here's how the interview went. I hope you enjoy it. Jeremy, it's nice to meet you.
Good to meet you too.
Just a small introduction. I run the YouTube channel Pack Tactics, which is mostly like a veterans channel. I cover rules and stuff like that. It's mostly about min-maxing and yeah, that sort of stuff. And I play as a little blue kobold. There's a little blue kobold on the screen talking. But anyways, let's start with the questions immediately. Everybody knows who you are. To start off, I'd like to ask you about backwards compatibility between features from older books with newer books. In one of your introductory videos about the book, you mentioned on the official channel that using the new player's handbook for your characters means that you cannot use your character options from the older books. But a character created with the old player's handbook can play with one made with the newer version. And this brings us to my first question. How does older content outside of the 2014 player's handbook interact with the new rules book? Let's say I'm playing a 2024 cleric, and I really like the Forge Domain cleric from Xanathar's. Clerics used to get their subclass features at level 1, 2, 6, 8, and 17. Now clerics get their divine domain features at level 3, 6, and 17. Is there a way to use the Forge Domain cleric with the new rules? And if so, how? And the same applies to all the other classes and subclasses.
So I'll start with options that are in the 2014 Player's Handbook. So an important nuance about using the 2024 Player's Handbook is that it replaces game options that appear in it and in the 2014 Player's Handbook. What that means is if there's an option, a subclass, a feat, or something else that's in 2014 but not in 2024, you can still use the 2014 version. So, great example. The Necromancer subclass does not appear in the Wizard class in the 2024 Player's Handbook. That means the 2024 Wizard can use the 2014 Necromancer. So, wanted to make sure that's clear about how the two Players' Handbooks work together. It's the 2024 one replaces material that is replicated from 2014, but if the thing that was in 2014 does not appear in 2024, you can still use the 2014 version. So the Necromancer, the Tempest Domain, the Half Elf, all of those fair game from the 2014 Player's Handbook. Now, similar principle with any subclasses or other options in books like Xanathar's Guide, Tasha's Cauldron. If the option in that other book is not replaced by something in the 2024 Player's Handbook, you can use it. So here's a great example. The Psy Warrior appears in the 2024 Player's Handbook, meaning that Psy Warrior now replaces the Psy Warrior that was in Tasha's Cauldron. But the Forge domain, to get to your question, that appears in Xanathar's Guide does not appear in the 2024 Player's Handbook, meaning you can use it. And we have designed the subclass rules so that they tell you essentially how an older subclass works, because what the Cleric subclass feature tells you is that when you get your subclass, you get every feature from the subclass that is of your level and lower. And we worded it that way, knowing that you might be picking a subclass for the Cleric that used to have first level features or second level features. So it's essentially, if you're making a 2024 Cleric and you pick your subclass, you get every feature up to that level in that subclass. And so basically the 2024 Player's Handbook covers you. It tells you, you just get it all at once. And
you get it all at once.
You catch up when you get the subclass at third level. Similarly, in the Cleric in particular, because the Cleric used to have that sort of shared feature where you either got your cantrips boosted or your weapon attacks boosted, we pulled that out of subclass and put it into the base class. Because we did that, the 2024 Cleric now tells you that if you get this same feature from some other source, like a subclass from an older book, you don't get both. You have to choose which one you use. So we have worked in throughout the book guidance that makes it so that those older options can snap into the newer classes, provided they are not options that the new book replaces. Does that make sense?
Yeah, just bear with me. I'm kind of nervous.
No worries at all.
So when I grab a new class and I can pick Forge, right?
Yes.
Do I get that at third? Do I get all of those level 1 and 2 features at third level? Or yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Then we're on the same page.
Yeah, because the class basically gives you your guidance. The class tells you, once you pick the subclass, the class's rules text tells you now how to get the features from your subclass.
Speaking of Xanathars, some spells like Steelwind Strike were originally released in Xanathars. And are now part... actually, you mentioned this. But anyways, I'll read it anyways. It was released in Xanathars and are now part of the new Player's Handbook. Are older spells that aren't part of the new Player's Handbook usable with the 2024 rules?
Yes.
The same question applies to feats.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious about the feats. Feats from Tasha's and Xanathars, are they all gated behind like a level 4 prerequisite?
So the new rules now make it clear how you choose feats. So for example, the new human specifies that you choose an origin feat, which then makes it impossible for you to choose an older feat that is not specifically tagged as an origin feat. So we solved for this to make the backward compatibility with feats seamless by adding these categories to our feats. And so again, if you follow the rule in the new PH and just sort of follow it as written, it will tell you like you have to go pick an origin feat. And so then if you go to Tasha's, you're like, oh, I'm going to go look at feats in Tasha's. Well, none of those feats are called origin feats, so they're not permissible. But if you're later told, just go pick any feat that you qualify for, then you can pick feats from one of those other books, as long as it's not a feat that appears in the new player's handbook.
So would they count as like a general feat then?
Yeah, it essentially, if they don't have a category on them, you can think of them as a general feat.
Okay.
And most of the time, are very specific rules about the type of feat that you can pick don't refer to general feats. They refer to origin feats, fighting style feats, epic boon feats. And so really, anytime that you have access to the general pool, you have access to also older feats that don't have a category. Because for those choices, we don't specify that the feat has to be in the general category. We just say, go pick a feat. Like we do with the new ability score increase feature, where we tell you either go get the ability score increase feat or pick another feat for which you qualify, which that wording means any of those older feats from older books are valid options as long as you qualify for them.
All right. Then my final question. I see there's no half species in the book, like half elf, for example. Is that intentional, or are you guys no longer interested in providing options like that?
So the half elf and the half orc are examples of options that we didn't carry forward, like the necromancer and the tempest domain, but which are still available for people to use because since they were not replaced by anything in the new player's handbook, people can continue to play with them. And when it came to the species in particular, we really wanted the 10 options in the new player's handbook to show a really fun range of options from that represent different aspects of the D&D multiverse. So that's why we brought in, for instance, Aasimar, so that we have the celestial answer to tieflings. That's also why we brought in Goliaths, where just as we have Dragonborn, who let you have a character distantly related to our very iconic chromatic and metallic dragons, you can now also play a character in the form of a Goliath who's connected to our very iconic giants. And we also wanted the orc in the book. And so as we looked at our range of options and also limited page space, we felt that the half elf and the half orc were covering territory too close to what other options we're already covering, because we have the orc in the book and we have the elf in the book. And so we made the call that just as we did with some subclasses, people can keep playing them, but they're not going to be in this book.
Just out of curiosity, because I was looking at this today, I noticed like humans and tieflings, I think it was tieflings as well, they can be like small size, like 2 feet tall and stuff like that. Does that have to do with like the flavoring with half species? Well, I mean, it depends on person, but is that like intentional?
So we did that because in the real world, there are humans who are of that height. So,
Fair enough.
it was actually about us more accurately depicting humans because when we were looking at our own height ranges, we realized that the average range for medium did not include real people in our world, and so we thought we want this to actually represent humans, and so it was important for us for small to be an option. And because tieflings have often arisen from human lines, they basically any species that's sort of like distantly connected to human got that size option.
Okay. All right. That's all my questions, really. Thank you very much, Crawford. Jeremy, it's
Happy.
very nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too.
That's the interview. From there, we just talked about video stuff and then said goodbye. So what do you think, Gator? Kobold! He was such a rules lawyer! Gator, he literally made the rules. I think he has a pass on this. Anyways, thank you very much, Wizards of the Coast, for letting me interview Jeremy. And thank you, Jeremy, for teaching me how to play Dungeons and Dragons. If you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you very much for watching. If it wasn't for you guys, I would have never gotten this opportunity. One last thing, don't forget to check out World Anvil. They make great stuff that's super useful for DMs. Thank you very much, World Anvil, for sponsoring this video. By the way, next video will be another special. Yes, actually the whole month is gonna be special, so stay tuned. It's gonna be fun. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.